If you're planning on building a project, you're planning on making some big money in this construction boom that's going to be taking place, I would imagine, here in the next few years, then pay attention to the information in this video. Even though I won't be covering every obstacle you could run into, I will cover a few. We all get caught up in this syndrome of making big money. Hey, a friend of mine just built a house for 200,000 and sold it for 400,000, cleared 200,000 in profit. Hey, I've heard these stories plenty of times, and it sounds good. And if you're planning on doing something like this and you don't have very much experience, I've got just a few things I want to say here. Number one, make sure that you're actually working with a set of blueprints or building plans that will work. Don't take a project from Montana and bring it to Arizona. This might not be the same thing here, or vice versa. If a friend of yours built a house in your area, there's a good chance you could use something like that. But it all depends. If your friend built it 15 years ago, it's going to be different today. There's different building codes and stuff like that. Another thing is you need to understand the level of greed that could be involved. I've actually seen contractors and worked on projects with other contractors where they've taken advantage of the property owners, and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't. And again, this is all legal, so don't think that, oh God, this is wrong. If a contractor signs an agreement with you, signs a contract with you for $100,000 or $50,000, they can't get in trouble. If it's a government contract, that might be a different story. So keep in mind that people are looking out for themselves, their best interests, and they're not always going to be looking out for your best interest. And it's not. Another thing is supervision. Are you going to be able to dedicate enough time to go to the project and make sure everything is going smoothly, or are you going to hire a superintendent, and this will cut into your cost for the project? Now, the biggest problem of all, the king daddy of all of these problems, is going to be the lack of money. And I would imagine this is what happens to most of the projects like the one you're looking at here. Somehow they created a budget and thought they could build it for $400,000, and it ended up costing them $500,000. And there's no way they can get that extra $100,000. The bank won't loan it to them. They don't have it. Their friends aren't going to loan it to them, so on and so on. So, just to recap everything before you jump into your delusions or illusions of grandeur here, some of this stuff isn't always going to be as easy as someone else makes it out to be. Now, just a quick story. I knew someone actually who built a house for $300,000 and sold it for $600,000. But the part that he really didn't tell me, I found out later, is they owned the property outright. They bought the property 30 years ago. And this is all stuff that he really didn't share with me. The price of the value of the lot that he built on, they probably could have sold it without building the house on it and made $150,000. And then, of course, he was a carpenter out on the job. He had a pretty good idea what needed to be done, and went through it. So you're going to hear a variety of different stories the longer you look into this stuff. And I suggest that you do educate yourself, get as much information as you possibly can. But do not forget the tips that are in this video. And if you need to watch it a couple of times, do it. Number one problem is going to be money. Make sure you have enough of it. Number two is understand human greed. You're not going to get the best deal all the time, and the best deal all the time isn't going to provide you with the best deal. You can hire the cheapest contractor and end up with a nightmare. You create a bigger problem than you would have if you paid a little more money. So it's not always going to be the cheapest. It's not always going to be paying, the most, or someone that you view as a highly qualified contractor. This isn't always going to be the best option, but you are going to need to figure out what those options are. And last but not least, start with a good set of building plans. That's it. I hope this video has provided you with a little more information than you started with, and a little incentive to educate yourself a little further before jumping into a project that you don't know very much about.